In every family, there is one who carries more than the others, one who bleeds silently, gives endlessly, and is forgotten too quickly. This is the story of Ekene, the brother who carried them all until they let him down. The harmattan wind blew fiercely that Christmas Eve afternoon. The air was dry, the sky pale grey, and fine red dust coated everything in Umudim village. Children ran about in excitement, chasing tires and singing Christmas carols with cracked voices. Smoke from firewood curled into the sky as women prepared soup for the next day. Ekene, only 13 years old, stood on a wooden stool outside their small compound, waiting. His shirt was too big and his slippers one thing. He squinted down the dusty road, clutching a stick of sugar cane he hadn't beaten yet. His parents had gone to Onitsha 3 days earlier to sell the season's cassava and palm oil. They promised to return in time for Christmas with jollof rice ingredients and new slippers for all the children. Ekene, Adaeze, Somto, and Obiora. But the road remained silent. Suddenly, a loud wailing pierced the dusty stillness. A neighbor's daughter came running, barefoot and breathless. Ekene, Ekene, come! Something has happened, she cried. His heart pounded. He ran. At the village square, a crowd gathered around a small Dawson truck. A tarpaulin covered two bodies. Ekene's knees buckled before he even saw their faces. Someone pulled back the cover. It was them, Mr. and Mrs. Mado, lifeless, blood on their once white Christmas clothes. They were coming back from Onitsha, a trader whispered. When a truck they took, it lost brake on Okija Hill. Silence, then a scream ripped from Ekene's throat. Everything blood. That day, Christmas died in the Mado's household. No one told Ekene how he managed to bury them. He just did. The church gave them a mass. Some neighbors helped. His uncle Chifokoye arrived with crocodile tears and empty hands. My late brother's children are now my responsibility, he declared, yet never returned. Days turned to weeks. Adaeze stopped laughing. Somto cried every night. Obiora, just 4, always asks, where is Mama? Again and again. With no money, no guidance, and the 3 siblings looking to him with hungry eyes, Ekene dropped out of school. He sold puff-puff on the roadside. He washed cars. He fetched water for lazy neighbors. He go to building sites. He became father, mother, and brother all in one. At night, he heard Adaeze while she sobbed and told Somto stories to help her sleep. He gave Obiora the biggest portion of food, pretending he wasn't hungry. Nobody had asked how he managed. Nobody saw him cry. But in the corners of Umudim, the elders whispered, that boy, he carries too much for his age. They didn't know the half of it. In the spirit realm, Mr. and Mrs. Mado watched silently, their spirits restless. The harmattan carried their presence, but something darker also locked, something that had not begun that Christmas, but long before. And Ekene was walking right into it, barefoot and unaware. Uncles came forward. No aunties stepped up. Whispers filled the air. Who will take care of 4 children now? They are cursed. Bad luck follows them. Ekene buried his parents with the little money his father left in an old tin box. With trembling hands, he wiped his tears and took his father's hold. If I must die to keep you alive, then so be it. he told his siblings that night. Ekene dropped out of secondary school and began hawking granuts. At dawn, he fetched water for the village women. At dusk, he cleaned toilets at the local schools. Sometimes he returned home with bleeding palms and an empty stomach. But Obiora always had his books. Adaeze had her medicine, and Somto had his school shoes. Ekene, you're too young for this, Mama Jim, a neighbor once said. I am their brother and their father, he replied, his voice firm, but his eyes tired. The villagers shook their heads in pity, and slowly they forgot them. But something in Ekene would not break. In time, he sold the only land their father left to enroll Obiora in the university. When people mocked him for selling his inheritance, he said, "What's the use of land if my brother can build a future?" The burden grew heavier. Somto developed typhoid. Adaeze had seizures that night. Ekene borrowed money from a brutal loan shark called Ijele, whose smile never touched his eyes. You don't pay, you bleed, Ijele had warned. Ekene nodded, as long as my siblings breathe. But what he didn't know was that pain was coming for him like a shadow with no mercy. Years passed, and Umudim watched in quiet amazement as the Mado's children began to rise on the back of one man's suffering. Ekene, now in his early 20s, looked older than his age. His hands were rough, his back bent from years of hard labor. But still, he smiled when Obiora graduated from the University of Nsukka with first-class honors. The entire village gathered for the celebration. Ekene wore an old shirt, boloed trousers, and shoes with holes in the soles. Obiora, now speaking with an acquired accent, introduced him to his friends simply as my elder brother. Not my father, not my hero, just brother. Still, Ekene didn't complain. That evening, as others feasted, Ekene stood behind the compound cooking jollof rice over firewood. His eyes were red from smoke and tiredness. Adaeze, now in nursing school, barely looked up from her phone. I will send you something small next week, he had told him months ago. Somto, the youngest, started learning programming from a local center in Enugu, sponsored by a tech NGO. Every Saturday, he called Ekene only to ask for transport fare. One night, while coughing uncontrollably, Ekene opened a worn-out exercise book and counted his debts, over 870,000 naira, mostly owed to Ijele, the loan shark. His heart pounded. The next day, Ijele came. You think I am playing with you? He said, slamming Ekene against a wall. You have 7 days or I take a pound of flesh. Please, I just need time, Ekene begged. Time doesn't pay debt, Ijele hissed. With no response from his siblings, Ekene sold the last valuable he owned, his father's rusted motorcycle. It fetched him only 45,000 naira. He called Obiora. My health is failing. I need help. Obiora responded with a polite voice. Bro, things are hard here too. I'm settling down in the US. Just pray. It go better. He called Adaeze. Switched off. He texted Somto. No reply. The next morning, he collapsed while fetching water for Mama Jim. Ekene, she screamed. The villagers rushed. One man called his siblings. Another searched for his file at the local clinic, but there was no money for proper care. Then came an old woman, appeared from the forest edge. Her gray hair like white roof, her back straight despite age. She wore a wrapper with strange symbols. Mama Nkiru, the herbalist everyone feared. She walked through the crowd and knelt beside Ekene. With one glance, she knew the truth. This one has the heart of a lion, but the body of a dying goat, she whispered. You children abandon your pillars. Now watch your houses fall. And with that, she carried Ekene away into the woods, leaving the village in silence. The forest of Umudim was feared by all, whispered to be alive with spirits and strange voices. But Mama Nkiru walked through it with steady steps, carrying Ekene's frail body in her arms like he was light as a feather. Deep within the woods stood a crooked mud hut surrounded by herbs, bones, and hanging gourds. There she laid Ekene on a bamboo mat and began her work. For days, Ekene drifted in and out of consciousness. Fever burned him, and nightmares clawed at his mind. He saw his siblings laughing around a table full of food, while he sat outside in the rain, knocking but never let in. Then one night he woke, gasping, in a hut filled with strange smells and candlelight. Easy, Mama Nkiru said, grinding bitter root in a clay bowl. Your body is weak, but your spirit, unbreakable. Who are you? He rasped. She looked into his eyes. I am the one who sees those the world forgets. And you, my son, were forgotten by those you carried. Ekene wept. Every memory stabbed like a blade. Obiora's proud silence. Adeze's cold distance. Somto's selfish taste. Mama Nkiru placed a calabash before him. Drink and choose. Do you want to return to them or rise without them? Ekene drank. Weeks passed. Ekene learned to speak the language of herbs and fire. He watched Mama Nkiru heal the sick with leaves and chants, call rain during droughts, and silence curses with a whisper. He became her apprentice, then her son. One afternoon, as Ekene stirred boiling back, a red pigeon fell from the sky and crashed into the hut. Mama Nkiru froze. It has begun. What? Ekene asked. Your siblings, they are falling. Far away in Lagos, Somto clutched his stomach at a tech event, then collapsed, foaming at the mouth. The poison was planted by a jealous colleague who wanted his startup. In Abuja, Adeze began to hallucinate. She saw her patient bleeding from the eyes. No hospital could explain her condition. And in Atlanta, Obiora's company was hit by a lawsuit over fraud allegations. His accounts were frozen. His job was gone. 3 siblings, 1 ruin. Mama Nkiru stared into the flames that night. You carried them when they had no legs. Now they crawl and remember the one they left behind. Ekene clenched his fist. I don't want them to suffer, he whispered. I just wanted them to love me. Love without loyalty is a knife, Mama Nkiru said. A knock echoed through the forest air. A messenger, a familiar face. It was Somto's friend, Pascal. Breathless and sweating. Please, your brother is dying. He asks for you. Ekene looked at Mama Nkiru. Will you go? She asked. Ekene turned his eyes to the flames. Maybe I will, but not as their brother. The messenger waited outside Mama Nkiru's hut, pacing. Your siblings are falling apart, he pleaded. Adeze is hallucinating. Somto is battling for his life. Obiora has gone missing in America. They need you, Ekene. But inside the hut, Ekene's eyes were fixed on the fire. The red pigeon that had fallen earlier now burned in the flames. and Mama Nkiru stared into the smoke like it was a mirror to the spirit world. She spoke slowly, then unveiling a buried secret. Your parents' death, it wasn't an accident. Ekene turned sharply. What did you say? They were silenced, killed by your uncle, Chief Okoye, the one who never had a male child. No, that can't be. But the fire told the truth. Mama Nkiru waved her hand, and the smoke shifted, forming images. Ekene saw a younger version of his uncle, holding a calabash and kneeling before a dark river. Behind him stood a woman with empty eyes and snakes around her waist, a priestess of the forgotten gods. He asked for a male child, Mama Nkiru explained. The spirit said no, but he begged, cried. They gave him a deal. Silence your brother's legacy, and your name shall rise. Ekene watched, heart racing, as the image showed Chief Okoye paying off a truck driver, the same one that crashed into his parents' car. Ekene trembled. He killed them? Mama Nkiru nodded. And that was just the beginning. She lifted a small gourd sealed with red thread. This is what poisoned your siblings against you. A charm disguised as a spice, given to Adaeze by her best friend, Ngozi, the daughter of your uncle's closest friend. Your sister cooked with it for years. Mama Nkiru continued. It spread hatred slowly, one spoon at a time. That was why your siblings grew cold, why they turned from you, while you sacrificed everything. Ekene dropped to his knees, shaking. They hated me, but it wasn't even their fault. No, she whispered, but hatred opens doors to ruin. He remembered the strange tension that grew over time. Obiora accusing him of being too controlling. Adaeze avoiding his calls. Somto blocking him after a mid-disagreement. It all made sense now. But that wasn't all. Mama Nkiru turned towards the forest edge. Your uncle tried to destroy you too. 3 times. But each time your parents' spirit stood between you and death. Ekene looked up. Eyes wept. My parents, they've been protecting me. She nodded. Even the pigeon that fell was a warning. He's planning one final blow. If you return to your siblings now without knowing who you truly are, you may not survive. Ekene clenched his fist. No, he said, I will go to them. Not as a victim, not as their brother, but as the son of warriors, the last of my father's line. Let my uncle try one more time. Outside the wind howled. The spirits were listening. Night fell like a curse over Umudim as Ekene, now draped in a simple white cloth and armed with knowledge, left the forest. Behind him, Mama Nkiru stood, watching, murmuring prayers in an ancient tongue. The battle is no longer physical. She said to the wind, let the spirit speak for him. Ekene walked through the village unnoticed, a ghost in his own land. Meanwhile, in Chief Okoye's mansion, the old man sat in a red-painted room filled with ancestral marks and dusty scrolls. His face had grown dark with fear. Obiora had vanished without a trace in America. Adaeze was being restrained in a psychiatric ward. Somto lay in coma. And yet, Ekene lived. Why won't this boy die? Chief Okoye barked. His chief priest, a man with sunken eyes and chalk-covered lips, whispered, His soul is protected. You fail to destroy his bloodline. Chief Okoye slammed his staff on the floor. Then we finish what we started. He ordered for a final ritual to sever the ancestral ties, to rip Ekene's essence from the spiritual realm. But that same hour, Ekene arrived at the family house. He walked into their compound where it all began. The gate creaked open. Adeze's friend, Ngozi, stood outside, eyes wide with shock. You are alive? Ekene smiled faintly. Tell my uncle I am here. She stumbled back, running to the mansion. Minutes later, Chief Okoye emerged, dressed in white lace and red beads, acting like the family elder he pretended to be. Ekene, my son, you came. Save the lies, Ekene said calmly. I know everything. My parents, your betrayer, even the charm you gave through Ngozi. Chief Okoye's smile vanished. So what? What will you do? You are still nothing but a beggar boy. I am the lion of this family. Ekene stepped forward, and lions fall when the spirits they mocked rise. Just then, thunder cracked. The ground trembled lightly. The wind rushed through the compound, blowing out the lights. Candles flared, then died. Whispers echoed, not from any mouth, but from the air itself. Everyone dropped to the ground, trembling. Ekene remained standing. Mama Nkiru appeared behind him. No one saw her arrive. You summoned spirit with greed, Chief Okoye, but the spirit of justice have answered. Chief Okoye's eyes widened in terror. He tried to run, but his legs gave way. The ancestral marks in his shrine began to weep blood. His priest screamed and vanished into thin air, leaving only ashes. From the shadows, the faced figures of Mr. and Mrs. Mado emerged. Ekene's parents, their spirits glowed with light, their eyes fixed on the man who betrayed them. Chief Okoye cried out, I only wanted a son. You destroy your brother for it, Ekene said, voice breaking. But I am the son he left behind, and I carry his name now. Chief Okoye collapsed, weeping like a child. But the punishment wasn't over. Mama Nkiru spoke. Now let us siblings rise and remember what they forgot. It began with Somto. In the sterile hospital room in Enugu, machines beeped slowly beside his unconscious body. For days, doctors gave up hope, but on the night of Chief Okoye's downfall, something shifted. The lights flickered. A cool breeze blew into the room despite the windows being shut. Then Somto opened his eyes. Brother, he whispered. Across the country, Adeze woke in her psychiatric ward, screaming at first, until the shadow he had seen vanished. The fog in her mind lifted like smoke blown away by the wind. She sat up, dazed and broken. Ekene, oh God, what have we done? And far away in Atlanta, Obiora stumbled in the Nigerian church downtown, looking pale and hungry. For the first time in years, he felt the invisible weight lift from his shoulders. No more nightmares, no more paranoia, only a strange arch in his chest, the arch of memory. He collapsed at the altar and wept. They all remembered. The times Ekene went hungry so they could eat. The nights he stayed awake nursing Adeze's fever. The days he sold his blood just to pay Somto's school fees. The silent sacrifices. The loneliness he hid behind tired eyes. And worst of all, the way they turned their backs when he needed them most. Adeze returned to Umudim first. She arrived at the village square barefoot, her designer handbag forgotten, her mascara round down her cheeks like shame. Where is Ekene? She asked. Mama Jim, who once helped Ekene fetch water, pointed towards the forest. He walks where the spirits walk now. Obiora came days later, his pride broken. He didn't speak much, just walked through the compound with trembling hands, stopping at the kitchen, where Adeze once used the charmed spice. He picked up a small bottle left in the corner and smelled it. His face contorted in horror. "We cooked poison," he said, "and fed it to our own blood." Somto arrived last, still weak. He brought nothing but an old photo of them as children. Ekene holding them close, wearing a shirt with holes, but a smile full of hope. Together, the three knelt before the same hut Ekene once crawled out from. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, like, comment, and share. And don't forget, we rise by carrying each other.